Ferrari may have just been caught exploiting a loophole that no other team in Formula One can use. Because during what looked like a harmless tire test, they ran their current car for over 200 kilometers, in fully controlled conditions, with zero restrictions on driver preparation. And here's why that matters. While every other team is stuck with limited track time, Ferrari can simulate races, repeat corners, force mistakes, and rebuild a driver in real conditions whenever an opportunity appears. Completely legal, completely hidden, and completely impossible to copy. But that's not the most controversial part. Because what they were actually preparing during those laps wasn't just performance. It was a system. A system so sensitive that without this kind of preparation, it simply wouldn't work. And once you understand what Ferrari is really doing behind closed doors, you realize this isn't just an advantage. It's something much bigger. At first, nothing about it looked unusual. Ferrari announced a tire test. Pirelli program. Standard procedure. The kind of session every team has done before. And that's exactly why no one questioned it. Because on the surface, it follows the rules perfectly. The car is legal. The purpose is predefined. The data is restricted. Everything seems controlled. But the reality at Fiorano was very different. Because Ferrari didn't approach this like a normal test. They approached it like an opportunity. A rare window where the most valuable resource in Formula One becomes available again. Track time. Real laps. Real feedback. Real consequences. And they built everything around that. Hamilton wasn't just sent out to complete a program. He was put into a cycle. A loop. The same corners. The same braking zones. The same conditions. Repeated with precision. Over and over again. Until every reaction became automatic. And here's where things start to feel different. Because this level of repetition doesn't exist during a race weekend. You don't get the same corner 10 times in identical conditions. You don't get to repeat the same mistake until it disappears. You don't get control. But at Fiorano, Ferrari created that control. Artificial rain. Consistent grip. Identical scenarios. And that changes everything. Because now you're not just driving. You're isolating behavior. You're removing randomness. You're turning performance into something measurable, repeatable, predictable. And that's exactly what Ferrari needed. Because Hamilton's biggest issue wasn't speed. It was inconsistency. Moments where the car didn't respond the way he expected. Moments where confidence dropped. And once that happens, lap time disappears. So Ferrari attacked the root of the problem. Not with upgrades. Not with theory. With repetition. Relentless repetition. And slowly, something started to shift. The car stopped surprising him. The rear became predictable. The braking phases became cleaner. And those small changes add up quickly. Because in Formula One, confidence is not just a feeling. It's performance. But here's where it becomes something much bigger than just driver improvement. Because this entire process was happening while Ferrari engineers were watching something very specific. Not lap times. Not top speed. Micro details. Steering corrections. Brake traces. Throttle application. They were looking for one thing. Trust. Because if the driver trusts the car, everything else follows. And by the end of those sessions, the signs were clear. The hesitation was gone. The inputs were precise. The adaptation was real. But that's not the part raising eyebrows inside the paddock. What really matters is why Ferrari needed this level of preparation in the first place. Because teams don't go this far unless something much more complex is coming next. Because what Ferrari is preparing is not just difficult. It's unforgiving. A system that works perfectly or doesn't work at all. There is no middle ground. And that's exactly why this whole Fiorano operation starts to make sense. Because the SF-26 is no longer a simple car to drive. It's becoming something much more sensitive, more precise, more dependent on exact inputs. And that's where the controversy begins to grow. Because some teams are starting to realize, Ferrari is not just testing. They are conditioning. Conditioning a driver to operate a car that behaves differently from anything else on the grid. And that changes the conversation completely. Because now it's not about who has the best upgrade. It's about who can actually use it. And Ferrari is making sure they win that battle before the upgrades even arrive. But here's where it gets even more serious. Because this level of preparation suggests something very clear. The car is evolving into something that demands perfection. Every braking zone. Every throttle input. Every transition between straight and corner. And if you're even slightly off, you lose time instantly. Or worse, you lose control. So Ferrari made a choice. They didn't simplify the car. They didn't make it easier. They went in the opposite direction. They pushed performance to the limit and decided to train the driver to match it. And that's a completely different philosophy. Because most teams adapt the car to the driver. Ferrari is adapting the driver to the car. And that is far more aggressive, far more risky, but also potentially far more powerful. Because if it works, you don't just gain tenths. You unlock performance others can't reach. Not because they lack the technology, but because they lack the preparation. And this is where Fiorano becomes something no regulation can truly control. Because you can limit testing. You can restrict data. You can define what teams are allowed to do. But you cannot measure adaptation. You cannot regulate confidence. You cannot stop a team from building a driver, lap by lap, in a controlled environment. And Ferrari knows it. That's why every lap at Fiorano had a purpose. Every run was intentional. Every scenario was designed to remove one more layer of uncertainty. Until there was nothing left but precision. But there's still one final piece that makes this even more controversial. Because everything Ferrari has done so far remains hidden. No official data. No confirmed performance gain. No direct proof of advantage. Which means when they arrive at the next race, the rest of the grid won't see it coming. They'll just see the result. A car that looks the same. A driver that looks sharper. And a performance jump that doesn't quite make sense. And by the time they understand it, it might already be too late. Because Ferrari won't be adapting anymore. They'll already be operating at full potential. From the very first lap. And that's the real danger here. Not the upgrade. Not the system. But the fact that Ferrari is preparing everything in silence. So when it finally appears, there is no warning. Only impact. And this is where everything finally comes together. Because what Ferrari is building is not just speed. It's timing. Perfect timing. Between machine and driver. Between straight and corner. Between risk and control. And if that timing is even slightly off, the entire concept fails. But if it's perfect, it becomes something no other team can defend against. Because think about it. A car that gains massive speed on the straights. A floor that keeps it stable through corners. An energy system that deploys power exactly when needed. And a driver who already understands every reaction before it happens. That's not just an upgrade. That's alignment. Complete alignment. And that's what Fiorano was really about. Not testing parts. Not chasing lap time. Synchronizing everything. So when the car finally arrives at a real race weekend, there are no surprises left. Only execution. But here's the part that should concern every other team. Because they will be seeing this for the first time under race conditions. They won't have the data. They won't have the reference. They won't know where the advantage is coming from. Is it the straight line speed? Is it the corner stability? Is it the energy deployment? Or is it simply that the driver is now extracting everything perfectly? And that uncertainty is dangerous. Because you can't fight what you don't understand. And by the time you do understand it, Ferrari may already be ahead. But there's one final twist in all of this. Because this entire strategy depends on one thing. Consistency. Not just for one lap. Not just in qualifying. Across an entire race. With tire degradation. With traffic. With pressure. With changing conditions. Because everything Ferrari tested was controlled. Predictable. Repeatable. And Formula One is none of those things. So now comes the real test. Can this perfectly prepared system survive chaos? Can this precision survive unpredictability? Can this driver maintain that level when everything around him changes? Because if the answer is yes, then Ferrari hasn't just found performance. They found control. Control over variables that usually decide races. Control over adaptation. Control over execution. And in modern Formula One, that might be the most powerful advantage of all. But if the answer is no, if even one piece breaks under real pressure, then everything they built at Fiorano, every lap, every adjustment, every calculated step, becomes irrelevant. And that's what makes this so compelling. Because right now, Ferrari looks ready, prepared, aligned. But the real question still hasn't been answered. What happens when perfection meets reality? Because when that moment finally arrives, everything slows down. Not for the drivers. Not for the cars. But for the people watching. Because suddenly, something feels different. The Ferrari doesn't look unstable anymore. It doesn't look nervous on entry. It doesn't hesitate under braking. It just flows. From straight to corner. From corner to exit. With a level of precision that wasn't there before. And that's when the realization starts to hit. This didn't happen during the race weekend. This didn't appear overnight. This was built. Quietly. Deliberately. Far away from the cameras. At Fiorano. And now, everyone is seeing the result. But here's where it becomes even more unsettling. Because the advantage isn't obvious. It's subtle. It's in the way the car positions itself before braking. It's in how stable the rear looks when speed drops. It's in how early the driver commits to the corner. Small details. Almost invisible. But over a full lap, they add up. Tenths. Then more tenths. And suddenly, the gap that looked impossible to close starts to disappear. But the most important part is not the car. It's the driver. Because Hamilton is no longer reacting. He's dictating. He's placing the car exactly where it needs to be. Not correcting mistakes, but preventing them before they happen. And that's the highest level of control a driver can reach. But here's the part no one wants to admit. If Ferrari really achieved this, then they didn't just improve performance. They changed the learning curve. Because while other teams will now try to understand what Ferrari did, Ferrari has already moved past that phase. They're not learning anymore. They're executing. And that gap, between learning and executing, is where races are decided. But there's still one final question left. The one everything has been building toward. Because if this entire system works, if the driver is fully adapted, if the car is finally stable, if the performance is real, then why hasn't Ferrari shown everything yet? Why keep it hidden? Why wait? And the answer is the most important part of this entire story. Because Ferrari is not just trying to be fast. They are choosing the exact moment to reveal it. The moment where it has maximum impact. Maximum surprise. Maximum consequence. Because in Formula One, timing is everything. And if you reveal your advantage too early, you give others time to react. Time to copy. Time to catch up. But if you wait, if you prepare everything in silence, if you arrive with a complete package, a ready driver, a refined system, a stable car, then the impact is immediate. And by the time anyone understands it, you're already ahead. That's the real strategy. Not just building performance, but controlling when that performance appears. And now, that moment is close. Closer than most people think. Because the next time Ferrari shows their full potential, it won't be in testing. It won't be in private. It will be when it matters. When points are on the line. When pressure is real. When there is no room left to hide. And when that happens, we won't be asking if Ferrari improved. We'll be asking something much bigger. Did Ferrari just change the way performance is built in Formula One, without anyone noticing until it was too late?